Once it was laid out, it's on the ground.
Did you ever play in the flats that used to be up on the
Not as a fan, just depending on the school trip.
We used to have the cows wandering around the block. It wasn't kangaroos, it was cows. Everywhere.
When we bought the block, there was hardly any big trees on that whole hill because the cows kept it all down. We had to trees like this all up. We could sit on the ground and we could see the point of it and watch the surface. Mum could see us kids on the beach. No chance now.
Go back.
I rode on the white too. Everybody else need to make themselves a name. Last chance.
Okay, everyone. Welcome.
Louder.
Thank you so much for making the effort to come down to Kennett River. Beautiful weather.
Turned it on, Ash.
Louder.
Fantastic day.
No, I'm sorry, it was all the mothers that have gone from their wives up in heaven. They're all smiling down on us and stuff. Lovely. Nice. Well, that's the way I'm seeing it. Yeah, all the mothers and aunts and people's home.
So thank you so much for putting on the Facebook site, Vintage Kennett River, your personal photos, which are personal. So that's why when people join, I try to keep it within the family and not people just want to have a look and see what's there for their So I think it's just a nice little community, which Kennett River is. So Kennett River goes back a long, long way. And we have some guests today who are more than happy to share the history of Kennett River, which we don't know about because we weren't here then, we weren't here for various reasons, different eras. So we have, first of all, we have Val McVean, who will speak to us in the early history of Kennett River, who is a wealth of information. And her husband, Don McVean, we'll get Don up at the end. Don will come in at the end and he will answer some questions, any questions, also Val will too. And Don will talk about something quite specific. He doesn't know about that. He'll catch on. Then we have Tim Rothman, and he will talk about his era in the caravan park. Era?
A bit of history, family history, memories.
Then we'll have Coogee, the famous Coogee. He will talk about all of the Surf Life Saving Club. And then we'll have Alice Alison and Sandra. Yay!
And Fran.
And Fran. Fran wants to talk to you.
Sandra couldn't make it out.
So can you give a please a warm welcome for Val?
Now I think I'll stand forward, but then if you can't hear me, you will have to move forward. So, thank you, Ashley,
Pleasure.
for the invitation to come on today. A special reunion known as, I believe, KR Vintage or Vintage KR. Like a good vintage wine, we'll have all matured with age, including myself, and it is nice to see you enjoying your gathering this weekend. Each have your own personal story and memories, as I have. Those I will talk about today are of my early years as a camper at Kennett River. Can you hear me? Yes. It was Christmas 1945. The war had ended and my parents decided we would take off in the 1928 Chev Tourer, canvas hood, no boot, running boards along the side. Attached to these were expanding rails, and this enabled long and difficult articles such as tent poles to be more easily packed, together with a 6x4 trailer in tow, destination unknown. Driving on towards Lawn, it was decided to proceed through the town looking for greener pastures, hence moving on to Kennett. The bitumen ended at Cumberland River, and from there the road construction consisted of crushed bluestone, very rough, no guardrails, one often having to pull to the side to allow another vehicle to pass. Moving on through Wye to Kennett River, we took a break to visit a friend of my father who happened to be holidaying in one of the river flats. Looking down on the river below, it was soon realised, I think I better sit down because I'm getting a bit wobbly. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ashley. Don't fold it up as I sit down.
I mean, that's my mum.
Is there anything else you wanted? It's over at home.
Moving on through Wye to Kennett River, we took a break to visit a friend of my father who happened to be holidaying in one of the river flats. Looking down to the river below, it was soon realised there could be no better place to pitch the tent than on the grassy, flat riverside. The area called the Back Flat was privately owned and operated as a dairy farm. The location from the Great Ocean Road would be approximately 500 metres along a dirt track, camping any closer to the Great Ocean Road being unsuitable due to the tidal changes. The water was brackish and unsuitable for drinking. However, proceeding through a farm gate, camping was permitted with clear, running water available. There was an order of campers beyond the gate, and the names I remember were and you may remember some of these too. The Gears, Bill Davies, later to reside in Kennett River, Jack Cromwell, Mrs. Gray, who was Jack's sister, her two children, Anne and Jonathan. Anne and Jonathan built on the second subdivision to take place and are regulars to this day. The Boatwoods, Jim and Marge Lyle, son Robert and sister Beth. Mr. and Mrs. Scott from Brunswick, Mr. Skews, a widower, and his family, Barry, Judy and John. I believe Tim Rothman, here today, is a grandson of Mr. Skews. The camps ran along the riverbank on privately owned ground and operated as a dairy farm. However, public have the right to access land along any riverbank within
so many feet in the water, hence the reason for all the camps being permitted in a row. No facilities were provided apart from two roughly constructed outhouses on the construction, 4 walls of galvanised iron, a wooden plank straddling a hole in the ground known as a longo. Not the most savoury of conditions, hence most campers chose to construct an outhouse for their side, which was best suited to them. Alternatively, either swim in the ocean or wash behind a canvas screen, using a bucket of water for a good splash about. Many a cricket match took place in the open area. The year 1945 set the scene for a return to camping for the following years until my family purchased a 3-roomed cottage in Borden Avenue in the year 1953. Jim and Marge Lyle, who were neighbours of mine in Geelong, were seeking an opinion on suitable locations to go for a camping holiday, and my father mentioned to me we had found a wonderful spot to spend our holidays, and it wasn't too long before the Lyle family joined us. When the CRB campsite, and this is this total area that we're in, when this site commenced, the Lyles moved from upstream to the foreshore site. It appears the original owner of Kennett River was Lawrence Gibson, and his hut stood on the hillside behind the second bend of the river on from the skiers camp, and remained there for a number of years. Finally, beyond repair, it was demolished many years ago by Phil Cassidy, now deceased. At one time, a guest house functioned. Where the Lawrence Gibson conducted, it is unknown. The islands, Roy and Vi, brought from Gibson, and together with Vi's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Slattery, ran the dairy farm and guest house. Their children, Kay and Jean, attended Kennett River State School number 4607. We still have in our possession one white sheet from the flats marked Island in bold Indian ink in one corner. Surfboards were available for guests, and we still have one of the originals in our possession today. Can I have a little sip of water?
Of course you can, do well.
Thank you. The island sold to Harold and Mary Dodd. Their nephew Don was a handsome young man who ran the dairy. There must have been some attraction to this young man, as I
Still
married
is.
him in 1957. Just on 6 years ago.
We all make one mistake in our lives.
Which one of us? He continued to run the dairy farm until the passing of Harold, when it was decided Auntie Mary and Don would return to Melbourne. Following the Dodds' departure, the property was sold to Joe and Hazel Cassidy. We'll talk further on about the dairy flats. The old store, now derelict, was the only store and carried basic items to provide a service for the mill families. With limited power provided by a generator, a hurricane lamp hung above the counter to provide extra lighting. Externally, a petrol bowser stood between the store and the river. To operate the bowser, one would pump by hand petrol up to glass bowls, a gallon at a time, and then transfer again by pumping to the vehicle. At that point, 2 huge gum tree trunks stretched across the river to act as a bridge, but there was no decking. They were seldom used due to the risk of slipping and falling into the river. The only industry at Kennett was the Kennett Mill, erected and owned by C. Armistead. Mill workers and their families were provided provided with a house constructed of rough sawn timber with very few comforts within. These houses, referred to as the mill houses, were built on Crown land. Their water supply came from a pump house on the first major bend of the river. You probably all know the first big bend, quite a deep pool there. Via galvanised piping that crossed the river up and over the hill, thus servicing the school, mill and the houses. Sawdust created by the milling was pumped to the ocean side of the road, and remnants may be seen to this day. It's difficult to imagine what a size it was. One of the photos, I have a few photos here, shows my cousin Alida Cocking and myself perched on top. The rough sawn ends of mill timber was a source of fuel for heating and cooking. These were also available to campers, free of charge, and many a car and trailer were taken there throughout the holiday period. The children of families at the mill attended Kennett River State School, and among teachers who taught there were Wally McWall, who married Barbara Bennett, Millhand's daughter, in 1951-1952, Ashley Williams, Wally Seed, Bill James, term 2, 1957, until the end of the year. He later wrote a book on bush talkies, school dunnies and other stories, and Kennett River is mentioned in that book.
Al, would you like to have a drink of water?
You think I'm sounding a bit stale?
No, and I can show them that. This is the...
Walk around.
Yeah, this is the house down on the river flats. You can see...
No, that's the store.
The old store.
Does he know the old store? One that's
Is that the building that still stands there, Don? That used to be the store.
That was the store.
Okay.
And you can see the tree. You can see the trees in the painting. There were a lot of trees between the store and the river. They've all gone. It's amazing that.
The red yes.
Thanks, man.
Right. Did I mention the first head teacher was Stanley Annear and only stayed a fortnight after the school opened in 1942. In 1958, sorry there are a lot of dates and numbers here, but in 1958 24 students were enrolled, but attendance fell by 7 the following year. The school closed on the 27th of May 1959 and children transferred to Apollo Bay Consolidated School.
Next to the mill, it's in another painting that's
We were
going to
able
be
to
passed around.
salvage the original school sign, Kennett River number 4607. It now hangs on our wall at Sunrise Cottage in Horton Avenue. In Wally Wall's time, the following students attended: Ray and Barry Bennett, they were brothers, 5 from the Hogan family, 4 from the Gartland family, 2 Armsteads, the Sharp, Jean and Kay Island, who were the daughters of the people who owned the dairy farm and the flats, and Chris and Jill Coon. And their father was a builder and built in Addis Avenue.
Al, Don wants to.
We're in school now. Permission to speak. Because you're discussing the school, there's the painting with the school in it. So that I was just asked the question, where was the school located?
The school was located...
But you've got a painting there with the school in it. Not that one.
Ashley, it must be there. Don't tell me I'll have to run all at home. Thank you. I'll wait for that to go. Who asked the question where the school was?
Just here, but I don't know how many know where the school was.
Well, the school was on the corner of the Great Ocean Road, and I think it's now called Cassidy Drive. Yes, yes, and there are some cypress trees.
The cypress trees were all around it. And it had a picket fence also. A picket fence around the school. Ashley, you can put your finger on the school building. That one there is that's the school building, and the ones behind are mill houses. Right?
These were all done from a chap who used to take one of the river flats every year, and we were able to purchase direct from him. So we're very fortunate to have him. We right?
Mm.
Ah, where did I get up to?
You were talking about the school.
Right, back to the flats. The row facing the ocean were known for obvious reasons as the ocean flats, and the other group as the river flats as they faced the river. The flats were extremely Spartan and basic. Bare wooden floors, freestanding wardrobes, a bedside table, 2 single beds, flock mattresses in the single room and repeated in the double room. The entry to each room was through a single door opening out onto the veranda. No room interconnected. The kitchen consisted of a wood fire stove, plain wooden table and 4 chairs. Bathroom and toilet facilities were located in 2 galvanised structures quite apart from the flats. 1 male block, 1 female block. The dairy herd had free range as there were very few fences and were often seen strolling on the Great Ocean Road or grazing on the vegetation on the beach.
And this is, Val has.
Thank you.
And Val has one of the original cotton sheets
from the flats back in the early days.
Ireland on it.
You get a dressing gown too,
It wasn't a king-size bed.
You still steal from hotels you
About
visit?
2'6" wide. They were all little single beds.
I remember.
Back to the dairy. We'll get back to the dairy now. The milk was separated. The skim milk was fed to the pigs, and cream was canned and taken to the roadside, just over here, placed in a structure similar to a country letterbox, and from there collected by a Trans-Otway bus and taken to the Apollo Bay butter factory. That same building stands with the chimney intact to this day, but has been modified and converted into a supermarket and other businesses. Have you all noticed the chimney in there? No? Next time look. Arrive at the dairy at milking time with your billy, and one could buy the milk direct, still warm, straight from the cows. I remember when the first subdivision took place. However, I am unable to point the year. A plan hung in the old store. Private buildings slowly appeared, and we've been told by Paul Swift, the son of one of the Millhams and grandson of the owner, Sid Armistead, our cottage was the first to be built. The timber, of course, was from the Kennett mill. No electricity was connected to Kennett River, and lighting was from pressure lamps run on kerosene, as did our refrigerator. Power went through in 1968, and Ian McWilliams, electrician and long-standing friend, wired our house and a number of other homes. The McWilliams, see David sitting there, where's Jenny? Here somewhere. The McWilliams and McVeans are lifelong friends and have enjoyed many happy times together. Blocks of land in 1953. The father was a great one for noting things. And it's all handwritten in pencil in one of these books. The prices for the block of land, £150 a block to 160 in 1961. Returning to the Great Ocean Road. In the 1960s, the hillside moved between the George and Sheo rivers, following a 10-inch downpour in 2 hours. The Sheo had 4 feet of water flowing over it, and as a result, the road was closed for many months. The cliff required pinning back, and those pins still stand monitored to this very day on a very regular occasion. As a result of this weather, Lake Elizabeth, you've all heard of Lake Elizabeth? It was formed and now is a major water supply of Geelong and regions. These are some of my recollections until the time your group, KVR, dates back to. With camping no longer upstream, a new camping ground began to take shape on ground formerly used as storage for the CRB. Plans were drawn up and pegging out of the sites began. There were no powered sites, and the management was a group known as the Foreshore Committee. As tourism multiplied, caretaker manager was appointed for the holiday period. Harry Maloney and his wife, followed by Ron Hurd. Anyone remember that? Yep. Right. Andrew Green. Yes.
Ready.
I thought he was coming. The park changed hands on a few occasions, but for a number of years was overseen by the Foreshore and Camping Committee and met at Kennett River in our home monthly for a long period of time. Sorry, I think I've skipped the page. Be with me a minute. With my time up, I think I've got to the end of it all. Yes, with my time up, I should move on, but before doing so, I have not overlooked. Dances were held in the schoolhouse. Music was provided by a gramophone. The piles on the beach. Now, they were never completed to go into a pier because it was discovered the water was not deep enough for shipping to come in. Glowworms up at Grey River, and you've all been there, I'm sure, and taken photos. Richard Bendell, the lone rower who was washed ashore here, spent the night in our house. We had to get out of our bedroom and give it to him. By the next morning, he'd scrubbed up and ready for another day. The turtle You all remember the great big turtle on the beach? No? Photos here if anyone's interested later. Gus Muller. Now, he was a real legend of the bush. A story of its own. He is a story on his own. He's a real legend. The annual tennis tournament still goes on, doesn't it? Yes. And I'd like to say thank you all for being here. And again, many thanks to Wesley. And I now look forward with interest to hearing from Greg. I'm uneasy.
Well done.
Not because of the talk, because my stability. I know you.
All the framed beautiful pictures will be left out for the interview.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was
I'm not waiting
for
for you, Ross.
for you as well.
Tim Rothman, everyone.
That's right.
First of all, I'd just like to say thank you for coming. Well done to Ash for starting the DJ. So many good connections. And it's wonderful seeing you all here today because I see a lot of faces, whether I remember you, but I remember you from back then. But yeah, it's good that we got some name tags on it because that makes us remind us who you are. Yeah. Sorry? Take my glasses off. There you are. All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to lead up to the bell and say, yeah, my grandparents camped up the river from about 1950, and John would know much more about that than me, and wouldn't you, John?
Go on, John.
Oh, sorry.
Well?
Hey, there you are. I didn't realise you.
Can you come up as well? I'll keep talking, you just back me up in case I get some names wrong or whatever. So roughly about the early 1950s, my grandfather camped up the river, and they loved camping up there, and my uncle and auntie camped up there also, Betty and Jim.
Yeah, just think of the band. Following on from Mrs.
Val.
Val, sorry. I didn't know you as well when I was a little boy. Yeah, I think you mentioned 1940s that you first went there.
45.
Yeah. I reckon it was about 54 that we started camping near the store on the old store. Yeah, so that's I think it was about that.
So anyway, they family moved up to this campground about 1961 when I was born. So my mother thought it'd be much easier to bathe a child in the laundry here. So I'm probably the reason I ruined their lovely campsite down there on the river. I just want to mention in my head just a memory of coming to Kennett River as a young boy, getting up early in the morning and hopping in the car before it was light and heading towards Kennett River. And once upon a time I came with my grandfather in the car, and I remember he used to always like stopping at Freshwater Creek. And there used to be a Tarax bottle there, a slide that was made out of Tarax bottles. And I just remember him always stopping there and getting his fuel, and I would go on the slide, and I thought that was fantastic as a little fella. And then driving along the Great Ocean Road, and he used to cut a lot of corners, and I was in his old FB sedan, and used to get even a bit nervous as a young child because the roads weren't so great, and definitely an experience coming down there with him. And I suppose the excitement of getting to Kennett River was turning around the Wye River and seeing the giant sawmill pile, sawdust on the beach, knowing, well, yeah, I'm nearly at Kennett River now, and that was fantastic. Very exciting. It was a long trip for a young boy. You didn't really know the miles and the sight things.
Pre-West Gate Bridge, that just take even longer.
Yeah, that's right. Now, Joe Cassidy, as everyone remembers, probably just about owned most of Kennett River at one point and ran the store for many years, and had many fond memories of Joe. Been very kind to us children, and even giving us, maybe a milkshake every now and then for nothing. And I remember working behind the encounter it a few times, and yeah, that was a great experience as a young boy and just getting some money. Also wasn't, well, memory also of a lot of the surfers camping out on the point. You used to be able to drive out onto the point, and there'd be numerous times with surfers all there, they'd leave and I'd search through the grass for a Coke bottle or something just to be able to take down and buy some lollies at the shop, or an old Martin's bottle. And yeah, that was a very good memory of mine also. What's that, Russell? By aniseed balls. By aniseed balls, yes, or aniseed blocks. Or aniseed blocks.
Christmas Day, Joe hated Christmas Day with all the dirty Christmas pies. Footings and sixties take down to buy the aniseed blocks.
Aniseed balls. I don't quite remember that currency. I know it changed in 66 and I was about 5 then, I think, but
he hated all the footings and sixties.
All that sort of stuff. I also remember as kids we used to wander up through the backdrops here behind Cassidy's house, and there was an old shed up there that had very old moving machines stuck up there with reels on it and big old movies, and apparently they used to have movie nights up the hill. I don't know if anyone here can...
That's right.
On the sheet up the hill here. I don't remember that. But that's why they had... Yeah, okay. I remember just looking through the shed as a kid finding, movie machines. And Mrs. Gabbets told me a few years back that they donated them to a movie museum in Melbourne or something. She's quite regretful she gave them away now because that would have been great history there for Kennett. And also, I think they had a lot of marching bottles up there too, and I might have taken one or two. People remember me as a kid, you'll know I was quite a devil.
Opportunist.
An opportunist, that's right. We all remember the late 60s, early 70s. Fires on the beach every night. It could be a number of fires on the beach. Coochie was talking about one big fire the other day, just over near the river mouth where people go. I don't quite remember that, I don't know why. But I remember lots of fires on the beach, and we would cruise along to each fire and get up to mischief, I suppose. Yes, and there are also movie nights in the campground, which is held up accordingly. I'm not sure who remembers those, but they had movies up there run by the Certified Saving Club. Must be on the old 8 mil, I suppose, projectors. And of course, Rob Lyle, yeah. And I suppose that's when we all figured out, realised there was lollygobble disc bombs that seemed to be going out around about that time, I think. Also, the Surf Like Saving Club having crazy whist nights and disco, so you'd have the Surf Like Saving Rob Lyle or Coonity probably, the loudspeaker talking about meeting up at the clubhouse for crazy whist nights, which I remember just so much fun. Going up there with my grandparents.
There's many crazy whist nights up at Heather and Phil's house.
Oh, was there as well?
Yes, it was there as well.
Okay, no, I don't remember going there, but yeah. Fantastic, really. And just the carnivals on the beach, the Surf Like Saving carnivals, and doing nippers, and that was just exciting too. And Coochie will talk more later about the surf club. Well, John couldn't help you there as well.
Yeah, stay there, John.
He's doing pretty well.
Right, and also the excitement of Richard Bendel landing in Kennett River was just huge. And I remember the helicopters landing on the beach. We got a few photos of there. And they stayed up with Valentine. He stayed up with Valentine. And there's a nice picture over on the table over there of, I might just grab that. And this is the beauty of the Kennett River VPR site and Facebook, because David, again, his father, took all these slides because he was, as Dale said, a family member. And I saw this come up on the side, and it's a beautiful photo because it was a slide. And I had a look at that picture and I thought, oh, is that me? And I don't remember what I looked like as a kid, but then someone confirmed it was me. And I thought, wow, because I don't have any pictures of myself. So the VKR site has just brought so many photos and memories up. and that's really special to that photo for sure. And there's Rob Netherway. Where are you, Rob? There's you in the corner there, with a little head stuck in the side there. There's probably lots of other people. You know, just about the friendship groups we had too. Like, you know, we all had our groups. You know, this one of the caravan park. You know, we were called the Turak end up there. I don't know why. I don't know whether we had better showers or we went down here in the slums where all the floods always happen. But we all remember digging trenches around our tents and being stuck out there in the rain, watching our suitcases float over the stretches around the tent. Yeah, we all remember that sort of stuff. But yeah, just the friendship groups was fantastic. And so many relationships have formed in Kennett River. I think I know at least five or six people that have met here and married, including myself, my lovely wife Sam over here. Met her at that tap, was like perving out of that tap. And she looks alright.
And actually, Robert's brother as well.
What's that?
And your brother, yeah.
My older brother?
Jamie.
Oh, what's he doing?
He met Anne here.
Oh, sorry, I thought you Anyway, yeah, so my brother met his wife here as well.
Sam, can you get a tap for us?
Arena.
I'm going to get a plaque on there one day. No, but I haven't done it. But anyway, that's okay. And of course, we now have wonderful koalas and birds in Kennett River, and you know, we might have the odd koala growing up in the bush, but you know, it's wonderful seeing king parrots everywhere. And Bill was talking about the different owners of the store. I remember, can't remember the Di and Gary, that's right, Di and Gary. And, Dave used to run around, you know, you go to get your bread in the morning, you might be asleep at the door or something, bread or milk. And, Anna and Graham, yes, Anna and Graham. Just so many different people, and you know, the shop didn't do much business during the year, so you know, summer was the time that they all made their money. Practically closed during the year. And then I met David and Craig when I was 13. We formed great friendships, and you know, John Nagle up here, Jeff Allen, who anyone knows, he's the doctor of the John Football Club. He used to come down here as well, and we used to surf all the time, and you know, go down to the shop and play the pinball machine, get some dim sims, egg jaffles or whatever jaffles we wanted. And I remember one crazy night, I'm not sure who it was, it might have been Peter Sherman, I think maybe Craig remembers, we parked our cars on the point, and it was about 11 o'clock at night, and we put the high beams onto the surf on the point. We all went surfing about 11 o'clock at night, and I'll tell you what, I've never been so terrified in all my life. Being out there in the dark and not knowing what's going to come up. I suppose it's no different than during the day. We were mad buggers, put it that way. Yeah, we were. Sorry, I'll just... yeah, another place, I think everyone remembers, we called it Honeymoon Cottage, which was over the other side of the river, and we just remember always, I don't know, you'll remember us sneaking up to that one day, and there was someone in there, and a big man came out, and we ran off, and then there was another time we walked around the river, and I don't know, there must have been like a nudist colony there or something. Remember that, Julie? Sherman, it was just around past the pump house, and we've gone around, there's like all these people in the nude, and they're all frolicking around the place. We're only kids, we're only like 9 or 10. We stood there perving for a while over the hill.
And then we stayed up on the hill and actually spied them.
Yeah, that's right, we spied them for a while. I don't know who they were or how they got to be up there. It's crazy. It's crazy.
You're getting that mixed up with the Sadie Hawkins. The Sadie Hawkins where the girls can chase the boys and toes. Because there was a youth group came up to...
What church is that?
There was a youth group came one stage and they took off into the older fellas, took at the girls, ran off and chased them. It's quite exciting, isn't it?
So yeah, Honeymoon Cottage, I think it's still standing. I haven't been up there for a while, but yes, and just in coming down to Kennett River in the old days, you used to have to come down early, mow your side out, peg it out, and you put the tent up 2 or 3 weeks before, and then you come down and you know, we spend, you know, 6 to 8 weeks here every year. I mean, I didn't have a Christmas at home until I was 16. We always had Christmas here. My grandfather used to go up the road, didn't he, and shoot a couple of rabbits, and we'd have a cold rabbit, and we'd always have a cold lunch. And yeah, so Christmas was wonderful down here, and we used to just get a gum tree tied to the pole and just probably put one little tinsel over it. Yeah, I remember not being able to sleep and wait till the morning and having some cold rabbit. Maybe some ham too.
That was a luxury then.
The luxury probably was. And Frank, grandfather, had the ice chest in the caravan, and so he used to go into the shop and get a block of ice. Yeah. Food cold. And
Cool garden.
yeah.
Just the folding chair, right?
And that was nice.
Yes. I've got a million other things going through my head, but I'll tie it up there. Kennett River is, you know, part of everyone's soul. I think that, you know, just lots of beautiful place.
I haven't got any stolen linen, but I've got an original member.
Sorry?
I haven't got any stolen linen, but I've got an original member of the surf club.
Good.
Do you want me to start?
Oh yeah, you can go for some.
I was a foundation member of the Surf Lifesaving Club, and one of the people that was on the spot when the drowning occurred was my cousin and myself. Went down to the beach. I think it was Boxing Day, 1970. Day after Boxing Day, a day when there was a strong easterly wind coming offshore. Nobody in except these two people, a father and son. And we looked at them for a while and thought, oh no, they're fine. And kept walking a bit. Then the little boy they were sort of holding each other's shoulders, and he must have become sludged from that and separated from the father, and we decided then that they were in trouble. By the time we got to them, they weren't all that far out. They were probably only just marginally out of their depths. Anyway, brought them both in. The father, unfortunately, didn't survive, but the little boy, who I think was 9 or 10, came from Boxhill, did. So, a bit of a tragic start to the surf club. That's why it's there. Soon after, a couple of days after, we went around as 3 or 4 of us, including myself, and took up, called for donations to start a surf club. We collected £100 it was then, which was enough to get the club going, and we're affiliated with the Surf Lifesaving Association. I was the first secretary treasurer. I think Professor Hunter used to be down here at that stage, was the first president. And we kicked off some challenging times, as you'd appreciate, distance and what have you. And I was at that stage a new father, so I only sort of stayed in about 4 years and had to resign. So a lot of things have changed since then. I haven't been down to Kennett for any period of time for about 30 odd years, so there's a lot of faces here I don't know. I do know some, but anyway, you can hopefully keep up from there.
Well done, John.
Because there was nowhere to stay, like units or anything, they did a deal with the mill to have because the mill houses were abandoned then, so they there was 3 and then the school, is that right, Val? And the surf club got the lease on the middle one. That was pretty wild times. Nobody complained, but and then when the surf club was built in 1970, Bunkhouse, and it sort of became a meeting ground, or melting pot, as you will, for all the younger ones. And they could sort of mingle and join in, all the houses come down. And yeah, it sort of became a real melting pot. Fun time, like shut down together. Then
to say the initial 5 or 6 that did their bronze the other day, and I was one. There was Rob Allison, I remember him, Fred Roach, who's since passed away, Michael Adam, the other one I can't remember.
But in those early days, sort of, was always a struggle with members and sort of, free on a patrol with the bare minimum. Sort of hard day to perform.
There's a lot of people that you appreciate in Melbourne and Geelong roundabout, so it's a big commitment for a young person to come down here each weekend, as it no doubt still is.
Any questions? Well, if you start with what I would like to say is you could almost call this vintage Kennett refugees. I mean, have a look at yourself. No, I don't. When I say it like that, the kids these days didn't have the freedoms that we had in those days. You know, we just wandered through, didn't we? You know, free range. But
It was safe to do so.
sorry.
It was safe to do so.
Exactly.
Your parents knew that you were going to be at Fred's house or Joe's house or Ted.
As long as you come home to do.
As long as you came when you were with them. Girlies.
But yeah, it's as I say, that the kids these days won't have what we've got now, or had back then.
You have to watch the cars on the way.
Hey?
Back in the early days, you only get one car coming along every
Yeah.
day. That's it.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coochie. And
John.
now we have Sandra and Alison to talk about.
And Julie and
Girls. So they're not only going to talk about their exploits at the White Pub.
No. My mother's sitting over there. What stays on? Basically, we're in front of you minus one girl who we all miss, which is Trish Saul. But us four ladies and Trish were the first girls in Victoria to ever do their bronze. Australia. Actually, Australia. So we got trained by Neil Taylor. And there was also some fellas that did it with us, which was Anthony Rock, Mick Heenan, Patrick Nolan, and we did it around in Apollo Bay, and it was the worst easterly you've ever seen. Basically, I think one of us did the swim. This is when we had to do belt swims, by the way. I think everyone's a bit pussy-ish now because they don't have to do that old belt swim. And the waves were actually taking the person that was out on the buoy away from us. So they had to cancel that after, I think Julie and I swam it. Yeah. And then we took it to the harbour because it was so dangerous. So basically I think probably, I'm speaking on behalf of us girls, but both Ali and I had brothers in the surf club. Yep, Mark over there and Stephen over there. Stephen, even when the first surf club was built, him and my dad went down and painted it. That was the first time it was ever painted. So, you know, they loved the club and I had all brothers, so I suppose, you know, being a swimmer, I thought, why can't girls be involved? So we got involved, we started swimming. We didn't mind the fact that this club was full of boys. That was the reason I joined. I can't swim, by the way. And so someone drowned. We're in trouble. Yeah.
They liked having the girls because there'd been no girls previously.
No,
And we made them
clean up that surf club.
Yeah. You made one
stinky. Yeah. So we were very proud to do that. We didn't actually realise there was a big deal at the time, but we're I think very proud of it now. Like I said, the surf club for a lot of us was just an amazing social thing. The crazy wish nights, the blue light discos. Blue light discos. They were like blue light discos. Were they? No, they're not. There was some lights. Yeah. And I have to mention that no one's mentioned the fire pit yet. The big fire pit. The boat burn, all those things, and like I said, you know, Aquarius out on the point. But